What's up, everybody? There he is, a New York City kid. How we doing, Mark?
Doing great, Andy. It's another wonderful week, and I tell you, this was a week of chaos, my friend. You were the one that you said, Mark, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to bring us back down to earth. And sure enough, last week I think was the week.
Yeah, there is always a week. We may get two in a row here with the slate we have coming up this week, but well, it's great to see you. I'm glad you survived what was it, the lemon squeeze? You survived this.
We did
this
some
weekend?
rock climbing this weekend, Andy, up in the Autzen Valley, and the lemon squeeze is about an 8-inch, 10-inch gap between two boulders that you squeeze up over the cliff, and then you overlook the valley. So
wow. Do you have to lube that baby up with Crisco or something?
Let's just say I had to turn sideways and shimmy.
Yeah, probably hold your breath for a bit too, man. Good stuff, man. Well, I'm glad you survived, and I was a little nervous about having to do this on my own. So I'm glad you survived and made it back. But hey, folks, we got an exciting show for you today. We're back. We're heading into week 7, and we have a big debut this week for Saturday Sensei. We've got our first guest that's going to join us here in a bit. And we will introduce that guest here shortly, probably in about 10 minutes or so, 10 to 12 minutes. So we're going to get through the recap of week 6, and then we're going to bring the guest on, and we're ready to rock and roll. So week 6 team performances, Mark. Last week we started with the big fugly. This week let's start with the bad. Let's go bad, ugly, fugly, and we'll finish with the good. So for you, what ticked that bad column for you?
So, Andy, you know me, I can never have just one. It's like candy. It's like chocolate for me, man. I can't just have one. And I know you're not going to like it because your team is on the naughty list here. But USC losing to Minnesota the way that they did, Andy, was just
I had it in the same category, my friend.
Right?
I had it. Yep, I had USC's loss to Minnesota, another poor road showing for the Trojans.
Yeah, that's what made it bad, right?
Disappointing. And you said ugly game. This ugly game.
Right. And what made others bad was Michigan. After they started so well and USC, they were poor in their loss to Washington.
I know somebody knew something too in that game. I mean, more than we did, because that was one of the L's in our column. But that Washington was favored in that game. And I think I was listening to a podcast on it, and the recap, which is so obvious, right? And you think, why did I not process that before I made the pick? But Michigan is so one-dimensional with Orji and underneath center, right? They're still working on his passing game. And Washington just shut down the run and said, all right, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to go through us. And they clearly couldn't do that. So.
And I heard, I don't know if this is confirmed yet, that they're changing QBs this week.
Really? I haven't seen anything. Wow. Okay. Going back. Okay.
So I think you're right. They think that they're one-dimensional. They're going to start a different QB and get a different look.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
So what was bad for you, my friend?
This one, I'm sure this one is going to be, and it's got to be in one of your following categories, the ugly or the fugly. Or it may be in your good bucket. But Bama's loss at Vandy, just bad, dude. Like you can't come off the win against Georgia, which I should have known it. And I have to go back and rewind the tapes. Just because Vandy, and particularly Diego Pavia, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his surname correctly, but he rises to the occasion. He led Vandy past Virginia Tech week 1 in Blacksburg, in that hostile environment. And he led New Mexico State last year to an undefeated record and a conference championship, which they ultimately lost to Liberty. But you kind of, again, hindsight's 2020, but this was a game that Alabama was going to slip up on. And it wasn't a poor game, like a terrible game to watch. They just got beat. Vandy figured them out, and Vandy beat them. Vandy put up 40, and Bama couldn't stay ahead. So I thought that was just a bad loss. It's a bad look for Bama.
It was, Andy, and this is the type of loss that Saban doesn't have, right? And the defense, to your point, they let up 40 points. If you look at their
I know.
defense over the last 6 quarters of football, it's astronomical the amount of points. But I had it in the good column because for Vandy,
Exactly.
This was, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, they took the goalposts and threw them in the river.
They did. $100,000 fine for Vandy this weekend. Well worth it, I think, to all those fans that marched it down Broadway and threw it in the river. So, absolutely. Well, we'll go to the good then. We'll scroll up, if you will. I had a bit of a game. I imagine a game not many people watched, other than if you were part of the fan bases. Did you catch UConn's victory over Temple?
I did not.
Wow, my friend. So Temple is on the 3-yard line, I believe, 3 or 4 yard line. There's 4 seconds left on the clock, 3 seconds left on the clock. They are down by 3. Temple has the ball on UConn's 3-yard line with 4 seconds to go. Line them up tight in the box. Tailbacks, running backs surrounding the QB. You know what's coming, right? The Bush push, right? The Philly special, whatever you want to call it, right?
That's right.
They're jamming it right up the center. Snap the ball squirts out.
Oh!
Jordan Wright from UConn scoops it up 96 yards to the house for the win for UConn. Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. It's incredibly exciting, and UConn would, if they would have stopped them, would have won. But what a way to finish a game! So hats off to Mr. Wright for ending that game in epic fashion. So tough bounce for the Owls.
Yeah.
So, how about the ugly? What was ugly for you this week?
Well, I did have a few more good. I mean,
okay, keep going.
You had called it. You had said, Mark, I'm looking for Miami to come west and to see what kind of game that was.
Yeah.
That was a back and forth game, huh?
It was right down to the wire.
Yeah, so I thought that was good. And, I had called out, I love the Beavers over Colorado State Rams. That was a back and forth game. And just, I thought that was the good of the week,
Yeah. No, there were a lot of good games, and certainly hats off to Vandy. They deserve that win. And yeah, like you said, some really, really good games. So, all right, now the ugly. I had one in here that I picked out, and I guess I'll have to get off the Dookie train, so to speak. But James Madison losing to ULM. Unbelievable.
Oh, I did not see that.
Yes, they did. They lost, I think it was 21-19. And so their offense, just to give you some context, the prior 2 weeks leading up to week 6 in the game last weekend, they had scored 133 points in 2 games. And they could only put up 19 against ULM.
Is that what it was? 19 points?
Yeah, it's terrible. So that was very disappointing. I thought James Madison, and this is you can't connect these dots. We can't look at everything. We can't research everything. So I think on last week's show, we talked about James Madison. You were giving me a bunch of crap. And, who is this team? Where are they from? Is a fluke. And I told you last year they were incredibly competitive. They had a good record. Well, guess who was the head coach at James Madison last year?
I do not know.
Signetti, who now has the Hoosiers at 6-0.
Oh my God, he left that program.
Yes.
And so we talked about the contenders and the pretenders. And I told you James Madison was a pretender.
Yeah.
But I said to you, Indiana is a contender.
And he took some of the guys with him in the portal, apparently. So I put those two together over the weekend when I was listening. They were, again, a lot of people obviously are hyping and all on getting on the Hoosier train. But the Duke's offense was a bit pedestrian. So that was my ugly for the week.
So I had some two ugly games. That Arkansas Tennessee game. Tennessee looked ugly, baby, ugly. And Whiskey put up 50 52.
52. Where'd that come from?
I have no idea, but the 6 points? I just, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Right? So I thought that those were two ugly games.
well, the big fugly, folks, you hit it. But the big fugly, Tennessee's lost to Arkansas. Now, let's rewind the tapes, folks. If you're just catching up, tune into week 6. You'll probably have to go to, I'm guessing, about minute, we'll call it 46, 48, that period of the video or the podcast. And I think I said the statement I made to you about this game, my heart is in Little Rock, my head's in Knoxville.
You did?
And because I'm the logical data guy, I'm going with the Vols.
Yep.
Should have stuck with my heart and my gut and stayed with the Hogs. But Tennessee's first half stats, first half, right? 2 quarters of football, 51 yards of total offense, 51. Only had 4 drives, 2 possessions out of 4, resulted in -5 yards of offense, my friend. Just horrendous. And needless to say, no points.
Right.
But terrible. Just terrible, yeah. That was bad. I watched most of that first half, most of that game, and it was almost borderline unbearable. It was so bad, the offense from Tennessee. They just could not get anything. And that Hogs defense, man, was flying around. So my ugly goes to the big balls down in Knoxville, and hopefully Heupel and the crew figure it out. But that was a tough one.
Okay. That was your ugly or your fugly?
Fugly. That was the big fugly for me for the week.
The big fugly for me is the team that continues to give me heartburn, Andy, and that is Texas A&M. They blew out Mizzou.
Missouri, yeah. Missouri got handed.
Yep. They took them behind the woodshed. That game was unwatchable, Andy.
But if you're an A&M and Aggies fan, and again, this is, I thought about it a little the weekend. We'll talk about it when we get into the picks. But, boy, they A&M looked like the team everybody thought they were. I mean, they're 4-1. If they wouldn't have lost to Notre Dame that close, they'd be 5-0 right now, and guarantee would probably be a top 5 team. I would bet, right?
I told you in the beginning of the season I liked A&M. They had this big payroll for NIL, but they came out of the gates not so good, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know where I stand with them, but they had the big fugly this weekend. Mizzou getting blown out by A&M.
Yeah, it was that was a shocker. I was really surprised to see. I think it was 24 or 31-0 at halftime. So anyhow, all right. Well, that takes us through our recap of week 6. Let's get on quickly here to individual and team performances. Who'd you have on the defensive side of the ball? Let's start there, Mark. Either a team or an individual. What'd you have there?
I'm watching this Penn State defense, and I'm watching how they took apart UCLA. I'm noticing Tom Allen taking over for Manny Fernandez, keeping the same schemes, maybe a different wrinkle here and there.
Yeah.
Last 3 years, they're first in sacks all through college football. They were third in total defense last year. I know you're going to run the numbers soon. I got to think that Penn State is going to be up there.
Yeah.
So I like Penn State.
Nice. I just talked about it, but Arkansas's defense was shut down the Vols' high-powered offense in that first half. So, and then we just talked about the other one, A&M just shutting down Missouri's offense as well too. So really stellar performances for those two teams. Offensive players or teams.
Andy, if we keep saying the same name, you're going to say this name on December 14th, Andy.
I should have put my retirement plan on this young man you're going to talk about, I think.
That's right. Ashton Gentry. You're going to be saying his name December 14th at the Downtown Athletic Club when they call up for the Heisman. This gentleman has just been week after week after week. He's chasing Barry Sanders.
Yes. I told you that in week 2.
You did?
After he played against Oregon, right? And he put up almost 300 yards against Oregon. he was on pace even then to break some of Sanders' records, and he certainly is now. That's who I had too. Not surprising, but what a performance.
And in the beginning of the year, I called Pittsburgh as my dark
good
horse,
call. Great call.
right? And I told you one of the fabulous freshmen was Eli Holstein.
Yeah.
Holstein. And again, another great week, 25 of 42, 381, 3 touchdowns. This kid's the real deal.
Looks like it, man. Yeah, I like it. Pitt Panthers. All right. Well,
undefeated.
Yeah, I know. Big games coming up. The only other one I had in here, which I thought big, I don't know if you caught Friday night's game. Kyle McCord, the Big Orange, headed out to Vegas, Allegiant Stadium, took down UNLV 44-41, 355 and 3 tutties on the night. So he continues to perform well in Syracuse. So I'd give him the mention. But yeah, Genty was my, once again, Saturday Sensei Offensive Player of the Week. Huge NIL deal coming, Genty, but not so fast. So, all right, we're going to break from the Week 6 recap, folks, and we're going to be back with a special guest. So stick with us here, and we'll be right back. Steve.
Shotgun
Oh,
Steve.
you like that?
Yeah, Andy's sporting the Cyclones gear.
Of course. I mean, come on, you got to know that this is going to be on when I'm coming on this prestigious podcast.
Hey, well,
I got to come see the Sensei.
First guest, man. You're our first honored guest of the show. We're damn glad to have you.
I'm truly honored. I appreciate it. I was excited when you sent me this. I do got to tell you, you throw me off every week when they're calling you Andy. Like, I'm like, hey, at work, Mark, just so you know, he's Andrew, right? Just see, and it's just it's throwing me off. I'm like, oh man, who's this Andy character?
Yeah,
but it turns out that there's a formal side and a collegiate football side. So glad to hear that Andy's on the right side of this one.
That's right.
Well, and Steve, for you to show up running shotgun in this car, man, I love it.
Hey, man, I'm actually sitting outside of a school in northeastern North Carolina, waiting for my 5th grade son to start his football game. He is playing football this year. He's awful. He can't tackle. He hates the contact. He's weak and soft, like all kids are these days. But especially, I'm sitting here at 6:00 Eastern. We will the mighty Eagles of Rocky Mount Academy will take on the Halifax Academy. I don't know what they are team. So
awesome.
We're going for a 5-0 record for this monumentous elementary football team.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to shoot us some names, man. The top recruits for 5th grade tackle football down in Rocky Mount.
I tell you what, I got
a few stories.
We got one. I tell you, he can play whatever sport he wants to because he's going to be good in all of them. So
yeah, awesome.
That's all it takes at this age.
Good deal. Well, thanks for joining us, Mark, Steve, Mark. So the connection, we're bringing it kind of full circle. Steve, you want to maybe kick us off and a little bit how we got connected, and then maybe wax a little bit on your love for the game, which is why you got the invite to join us here. So why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, appreciate it. First of all, thanks for the invite, Mark. Nice to officially meet you here. So Andy, as you guys would know him, and I both worked at the same company, and I was cast into a role and he was cast into a role where we ended up having to work together every damn day trying to get parts to plants through the COVID pandemic. And, other than just working together every day, we start talking, and it turns out we have pretty similar values, pretty similar work ethic and approach to life. And then come to find out, turns out we love college football. And I'll just maybe hit on that a minute. When I went to Iowa State, obviously, and we'll talk about my 11th ranked Iowa State Cyclones here shortly. But I went to Iowa State and just fell in love with college football. My buddies and I, at least 2 or 3 times a year, would do a big road trip somewhere that we were playing. A couple favorites. I went to the Army Iowa State game on a Friday night, back when Friday night games were not common, out in West Point. And I've done basically every Texas school, all that, and just fell in love with college football. And so as we've done that. As Andy and I talked about that and got closer. Turns out he loves it too. And I will just say one other comment. I was in Blacksburg, Virginia this last weekend to see for
No
my wife's
way.
40th birthday party, and unfortunately, Virginia Tech was not home. But I did drive by Lane Stadium and thought, "Oh man, I got to make it back here." And so it's on the list. It's a quick 3.5, 4 hour drive for me, and I will make it up there in the next year or two. So anyways, I knew you'd love that one.
Yeah, understand, man. Well, it sounds like you've got a similar routine that Mark does. Mark's done the same thing with his buddies and has got to a number of games. Hey, Mark.
So, Steve, it's uncanny on how I grew up doing the Thursday night, Friday night, then the Saturday. We do 3 games in a weekend, traveling down to Charlottesville, going down to South Carolina, and seeing the East Carolina Pirates against
Virginia. They're right here.
Right? Yeah. They're right there in your backyard in Rocky Mount.
They are.
And then going to see Rocky Top and seeing Georgia, Tennessee, down to LSU, Alabama, down to Tuscaloosa. And
nice.
Lo and behold, I get thrust into a role working shoulder to shoulder with Andy. Day by day,
you poor guys, man. You poor guys.
Trying to put together a distribution facility for him. And we get to talking. We get to talking about our backgrounds and our love of college football. And so similar, and here we are. And it's great to meet you.
Yeah.
Man, great to meet you too. And you got the podcast invite, and I just got thrown aside. So I recognize who was maybe better at their job than the other one.
I know the kind of hours they still make you work at that place, Steve. So
that has not slowed down one bit since you left.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Well, let's we're going to kind of our second portion of Steve's one of our loyal listeners will know hot topics of the week is usually what we get into after we recap. But surprise teams of the season so far. Good surprises, bad surprises, or disappointing. What do you guys got? Mark?
Well, since I'm the guest, I'm going to jump in. Yeah, I'm going first. The heck with you, host. I gotta get my time to shine here.
Yeah.
Hey, as you know, I'm an Iowa State fan, and so I'm going to talk Big 12 mostly. That's where I kind of live, right? This East Coast stuff, I don't know, but I thought of a couple. Obviously, my Cyclones. They don't surprise me a lot, but I think for most of the country, I don't think people saw us being 5-0, nor did they.
I raised my hand.
I know. I remember your week 2
Guilty.
Pick. Don't forget.
Yeah. And I'm probably going to piss you off with my pick this week, but hey.
Actually, this is one I'm a little bit worried about this week. But I will be there. I will be in Morgantown this week with all 3 of my kids and my wife, and we're going to make sure that we're bringing down the house. Nothing like taking a 4-year-old to a 8 p.m.
awesome,
kickoff. By the way,
his vocabulary is going to expand exponentially. Like he's going to. Your wife will be impressed with the new adverbs and adjectives.
He's heard it.
Steve, I've been to Morgantown, and just be wary of the hootenanny and the hoedown.
Oh yeah,
breaking out the music. They'll be breaking out the joints, and they will the banjos, and the drink will flow and the blood will spill, my friend.
I'm hoping to deliver a little deliverance to those Mountaineers, so that's going to be just right. Just right. That's right. Let's see. I got 2 more. Maybe just I got to tell you, the one surprise for me was Texas, and not because we didn't know they have tons of talent, but they have tons of talent every year. They've been buying people for years and years and years. They talk big every year, and they never show up. Since Vince Young, I was in high school. They've done nothing. So the fact that they've actually shown up and are pretty damn good, I got to give them as one of my positive surprises.
Nice. Good deal, man. What about you, Mark?
I got to think it's Boise State being a big major and BYU being undefeated at this point in the season.
Yeah.
So those are the big ones for me. Andy, you?
Well, I'll admit I raised my hand, but I got the Cyclones on my list. I did not expect them to be undefeated at this point, and good on them. Hopefully that run continues. The other 3 for me, one of them is 2 of them are close to the heart. One much closer than the other, but how about it? 12 undefeated teams left in the country. Out of that 12, 2 service academies. You got to love the Navy, Army Navy story right now, right? You absolutely got to love it. Fantastic, right?
That's good.
And then the dear old Hoosiers from 45 minutes south of Indianapolis, IU, starting off 6-0. So I got to give my love to those 3 teams. But disappointing for me.
That coach though at IU, that guy's amazing.
We were just talking
that guy
about
deserves
Monroe.
all the love.
Yeah,
all the
James
love.
James Madison University. So he's
Deserves
getting
all
it
the
done.
love.
How about
Signetti.
who's disappointed you guys?
I think it's the team we've had on the big ugly for the last 3 weeks. I don't know how this coach is not fired yet. Florida State. I mean, Steve, if there's a bigger disappointing team in college football, I don't know who it is.
No, they're trash. It's awful. I mean, it's a dumpster fire. It's awful.
Disappointing. Yeah.
I had them. I had them down. I got a couple. Both Big 12 schools. Kansas. The fact that they got Jalen Daniels, Devin Neal, great offensive players.
Great call.
And they just have not shown up. And I like their coach a bunch. And then even worse, Okie State. My goodness gracious, Oklahoma State looks just. Talk about dumpster fires. Gundy may find his 40-year-old self out the door here if he's not careful.
I know, man. I know. They've disappointed me the last few weeks. So yeah, good calls. I have Florida State, but I tell you the 2 that I have on here, and one of them I've got to again go against the team that I root for pretty much every weekend. But USC, man, it's that loss to Minnesota and Michigan. Like I thought. For a glimmering moment there that, with their hire of Deanton as a D coordinator, they might have turned it around, but just still unreliable. And then Oregon is the one for me that still, I know they're ranked this week, number 3 in the country, but they just haven't lived up to the preseason billing and hype that everybody gave them. And I think they're going to run into a buzzsaw with Ohio State this weekend, but we'll get to that later. So,
$1 million quarterback.
Yeah, I know. Mark, what about you?
Florida State.
That's
Florida
it.
State was,
Nobody else.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean Okie State, right? They've been disappointing, like Steve is saying. Those are the big ones for me, really.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal.
Hey,
well,
I got one other little nugget on this one. Just one I've not been impressed with is Georgia. And now stick with me on this. Yeah. They got boat raced in the first half versus Alabama. Like they might as well not been there. Now they did make a great comeback, but they also damn near lost to Kentucky the week before.
Kentucky's legit though, man. Their defense is good.
I agree, but for a team that touts 20 first-round picks every year, act like it. I mean, they got to do better than that.
Yeah, we'll see. They've got one of the tougher schedules, beyond Florida. I mean, they were in, I think, maybe the top 3 for toughest schedule this year. So they've got a couple more stalwarts they've got to get through. So we'll find out. We'll have to test that theory, Steve.
Yep.
So, all right, we're running up against 2 minutes to kick off down there in Rocky Mount for the epic 5th grade tackle football game tonight. But we can't let you go without giving us your pick for obviously the game you're going. I think we anticipate that. I don't want to give our big pick away for the week. Mark and I won't, but give us your pick on the Mountaineers and Cyclones, and then give us your take on let's go Oregon, Ohio State.
All right. I obviously think we're going to win this week. I do think it's going to be a really hard game. Night games in Morgantown are hard, even when they're not that good, and they're playing some really good football, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So we're going to have to play better than we did last week and just in general play a good football game. That said, I really like this team. They're coming together the right way. We've got actually a former NFL player from West Virginia, Anthony Becht. His son is our quarterback. Rocco Becht, and so that's a name to remember.
He's good, man. He's good. He's good.
Yep. So makes great decisions with the ball too. Just in general, he made one bad one this last week, but makes good decisions.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you, if we get through this game, We may walk into the last 2 weeks of the season undefeated, but then the last 2 weeks are going to be nasty because we're at Utah and then home versus K-State. So the Big 12 will be decided in the last 3 weeks of the Big 12 season. So that's my take there. And then, man, I'm actually going to go against you on this one, Andrew. I think Oregon will show up at home. Autzen Stadium is going to be rocking. Dylan Gabriel had better show his $1 million left arm to make it legit. And I actually think, other than the wide receivers for Ohio State are ridiculous, but I think Will Howard is very okay. He was okay at Kansas State and got beat out by a freshman, and that's why he's playing in Buckeye land. So I'm going to take the better quarterback in the home team. I'm going to give me the Ducks, baby.
Okay, there we go. There we have it. Good deal. All right, man. Well, thanks for joining us. Good luck at the game tonight, and we'll have to have you back perhaps at the end of the season to be talking undefeated Iowa State and perhaps the Hoosiers or the midshipmen from Navy heading into the CFP. So,
man, that would be pretty awesome. Hey, thanks for the invite, Mark. Officially great to meet you, and love the podcast, guys. Keep it up. I'll continue to be a loyal listener. I may even listen to myself, which is painful, but I'll give it a shot.
Good stuff, man. See
you, man. Take care. Be well.
See you guys
later. All right, folks. There we have it. Shotgun Steve. Good dude, man. Good dude. I'm glad you got to meet him, Mark. He loves his ball too, and loves talking it. So glad we got to have him on.
Absolutely. Sounds like a good dude.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, well, let's carry on now with the hot topics of the week. We've got a couple more here. Names on the back of the jersey. This came up. It's a photo on one of the feeds that I have, and it was a rear-facing shot of the back of a jersey of, I believe it was Penn State uniform, was just the number, and the question above the image posed was name or no name. What do you think, Mark?
It's always about the name on the front of the jersey, Andy.
He's pulling out the old miracle quote. Herb Brooks, going Herb Brooks on us.
Yep. I mean, this NIL thing, and I know you're more progressive than I am, but I'm old school, man.
Yeah, you gotta love it. I hope that the listeners are having as good a chuckle as I am. But you got the Midwestern corn raisin, soybean farming Hoosier, and is all for NIL and the progressiveness and innovation in college football. And you got the guy sitting down in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island, wherever you are out there on the East Coast, and sticking to his guns. Yeah, I think now I would say certainly before all the NIL stuff, I don't think it really, in fact, it did matter. I don't think, I'm not sure if any of the teams had names on the back of the jersey, but with NIL, college football back on EA Sports, the video game, names mean something, man. That's how kids and programs are identifying themselves, just like much like in the NFL. So I think it's only going to continue to grow. I think, I was still, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm totally sold on all the NIL, and I still think there's an element of going to a school, getting a full ride scholarship, having some per diem, having a pretty good life, at some of these bigger programs, and getting a solid education. That seems to me relatively fair. Now, when you look at the dollars and cents that these programs and universities have made, I can understand the argument about giving a bit more. But now that it's completely opened up, I honestly don't know how much difference a name will make relative to the number. Right? I mean, when I say the number, when I talk about the NFL and I state the number 18, who do you think about?
Peyton Manning.
Exactly. Right? So I think if you're a standout athlete, now college may be a little more different, but anyways, I'm a fan of it now in today's day and age. I do agree with you, though. I think we have gotten away from the team aspect of college sport, and and we just saw it with UNLV a couple weeks ago, right? Quarterback quitting, wanting more money, and redshirting and leaving the program for him, right? Not for another program, not for anything else but him. And I don't like that. right? And we've talked about that. So that's the downside of it all. So
Yeah, I mean, it just leads right into the wacky world of college football, Andy. Right?
it is a
And,
wacky world.
right? And that's really our segment that
Yeah.
we like to do, and we like to take the different stances. And I had brought up to you last week, is there going to be a commissioner? And, right? And you see that the commissioner of the SEC, he doesn't want a commissioner. He wants to have that SEC continue to dominate
Absolutely.
college football, right?
Show me the money, baby. Show me the
Yeah.
money.
And then, that just goes back into what you keep thinking this is going to morph into. And as we look down the road, I think you're going to be spot on that this structure is going to be reorganized into these two super conferences.
Yeah, tell me about this. I hadn't heard about this until you put it on our topic list. But this college student football league, man, tell me, I hadn't heard of that. But when I read through it, I love it. But talk to me about that.
It's just this proposed structure that they're going to reorganize into these two conferences, which is the what we call the super conference of all of the big groupings, and then everybody else, and then they'll bring those two together for the playoffs, probably with the 12 team, and they'll hold their version of a March Madness of February frantic, right? Some sort of February frenzy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
that they'll have. And
What do you do with all the other programs?
do they all get lumped into the other, which is the group 5?
Yeah. Because there's I'll have to get the math or the specific numbers.
132? How many teams?
Yeah. I think it's 132-ish in FBS, and that's a lot of teams, man. Like, just do the math on 3 conferences. Even if you split them equally, you're at 45 a pot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you work through that, but I read about that, and as you said, I was just thinking about this. Steve, he had to go to his son's game, but I remember him and I talked about this. I remember going back and forth on a text pre-COVID, right? So we're talking, 5-6 years ago. And I just felt, NFC, AFC, those things heading to 2 big conferences. I did a bit more thinking on that over the weekend. And I haven't played the whole thing out, but I think they ought to organize this similar to how Major League Baseball and the NHL are organized. Right. So in the MLB, you've got 2 leagues, American and National, right? And you've got 3 divisions within each of those leagues.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got 6 total. So in terms of the ability to break the teams down enough, into manageable kind of either not necessarily conferences, but divisions or whatever you want to call them. And then have some sort of wild card play in, like they've got in the major leagues. But I think you got enough teams to play with. I just think finding a structure that doesn't make it it isn't just it isn't put a lipstick on a pig, right? It's not just taking the 2 big, Big Ten swallows up the Big 12, the SEC swallows up the ACC, and there's 2 behemoths, and you're just mashing them together. Right. I think if you could find a way to sprinkle some of those teams across the different divisions and leagues, then you're talking that could be pretty exciting.
It could, if you divide them up equally, and the AL and the NL, and you have the 3 different divisions, and you've interspersed all of these powerhouses. It becomes exciting, and then break them up geographically, right? So that regionally,
right,
you keep those rivalries. What they have now with the Big Ten is totally just a mishmash.
Yeah, I know. We saw it this weekend.
Yeah.
Miami. Well, we're going to see it again this weekend. Penn State, the equipment trailer, semi, left Sunday night to arrive in Pasadena, I think on Friday. Miami's left same time from Florida out to Cal, right? So we're seeing it, and it's interesting, but I agree with you. I think there's a lot of potential here, and I hope enough smart people take their time to think about it. And I think the product is solid now. I think you can put out a product that would certainly contend, with the likes of Major League Sports. If you could figure this out right, so it'd be exciting to see what happens. Speaking about conferences, what's the latest on the Pac-12 and their expansion efforts?
Well, I guess this plays into how do they do it and how does this all come together? And it's all about the television rights, right?
Yeah.
And the media rights. And you've been saying all along you want to see the resurrection of the Pac-12,
the Phoenix rising from the ashes,
and how they're trying to raid the Mountain West, right, which is where the talent is, and then they'll nurture it to become the Pac-12 of the future. But
right.
what I'm hearing is that they're putting a pause on their expansion. They want to review what the media rights are going to be, how they're going to divvy up the money. And the league, I didn't know this, and you didn't really say this before. They're only one short of full membership.
Yeah. Well, when we first, I don't want to say we broke the news, but when the news broke and we talked about it, it was literally, I think, the same day we were taping the week's episode 3 weeks ago or so, and they had picked up. I think I had mentioned. I think Gonzaga was the first team that officially signed, which on our show maybe a little irrelevant. I'm not sure the Bulldogs are a powerhouse on the gridiron, but certainly on the hard court, they're a force to be reckoned with. But that's where it started, and then they expanded by adding 5 or 6 more. Colorado State's in the mix somewhere, maybe UNLV. But I thought they were still a couple short, but only being one short. There is a limit. I thought it was 10 was the minimum number that you had to have, and again, you see it right here, right? And what you said, media rights, money, dollars, that's a big piece of what they do. But I do love how, to your point, it's regional, right? They're not going and plucking Florida State out of, the ACC because Florida State's, suing the ACC or whomever because they couldn't leave, right? They're staying regional, which I like. That's good.
Yeah. So I think we'll do this segment once a week if we have those topics. The wacky world of college football is as the worm turns, man.
That's right, man. That's right. Good stuff, man. All right, folks. Well, we're getting to the highlight. We know everybody either waits for or you just fast forward right to it. Our picks for week 7 and the recap of week 6. So we are going to get onto that here in a bit. We're going to take a short break. Again, catch us at all of your favorite outlets for podcasts or the video version on YouTube. We're loving it. We're having a great time. We hope you are all as well. So we'll be back in just a second. All right, folks, we're back in business. Well, Mark, 3 weeks in a row of I've gotten kicked in the teeth, and you took a bit of a punch to the nose last week too. I was 8-7. You finished at 7-8. I think which game was it? I think it was maybe the Arizona State game. Perhaps I think it was a difference maker. The Arkansas game. We both had the Vols, but there was one game where we were on opposite sides, and that flipped the coin. But pretty much we were right at 500 or just below. On the season, I'm sitting at 61-32. New York City Kid is sitting at 57-36. So we're still on the top side, the right side of that column. But hard to believe, Mark. We've picked this week. We will go over 100 games that we've talked about and picked, and it's only week 7 we're getting into. So good stuff.
Absolutely. Let's get going, Andy. I mean, this is going to be another doozy of a week.
Let's start it off with a bang, my brother. The Red River Rivalry. Texas at Oklahoma.
Andy, my boy is back in the saddle. Quinn Ewers is back in the saddle this week. Oklahoma does not look like the powerhouse they've been. I got Texas all the way.
Yep. Hook 'em horns, baby. I'm with you. Longhorns roll into they play at a neutral site in this game, right?
They do. I'm not sure where, but it is a neutral site.
Yeah. So I think this game will be close. because I do believe having Ewers out the last couple weeks, I think there'll be a little bit of an adjustment to get back to him. Not a ton, but this game is always one up for grabs. Is this the game when Caleb Williams kind of made his splash onto the scene when they pulled Rattler? When Riley was at Oklahoma, I think his last year, they pulled Rattler out and Williams came on and stormed the team back, I thought.
It was, and Ratner wound up transferring to South Carolina
Right
after that.
Right. Yep, that's right. Yeah. All right. Well, we got the Longhorns kicking it off. Next, another big time matchup. Nittany Lions heading west into the Coliseum. A little Rose Bowl matchup. Little Rose Bowl matchup, huh?
But Andy, this is personal. This is my school versus your school.
Mm.
So I've been a lifelong Penn State fan, and I cannot go against the Nittany Lions. They're having a great year. They look good. I like them. I don't care that they're on the road. They're traveling. USC's been disappointing this season, as you said earlier. So we are, baby. Penn State.
Penn State, the Nittany Lions. Well, I'm going to join you, my friends. I know all my Trojan lovers and probably family out there, family members are going to give me a bunch of you-know-what for it. But after last week in Michigan, Penn State is going to have to prove me wrong on this one. So I've got the Nittany Lions going into the Coliseum and taking down the Trojans and continuing their march to what potentially will be a playoff berth. So Nittany Lions over the Trojans. Next one, interesting matchup. You talked about them earlier, and they are on the board of 12. We got the Wildcats from Zona heading into BYU, my friend. Good matchup.
I think it's going to be great. I think we talked about BYU as being the surprise team. I think they're for real, and I think they'll win. The Cougars.
Cougs. Yeah, I'm going Cougs too. Yeah, I'm going Cougs, and I think they'll win solidly. We'll put it that way. Next one, Utah, the Utes heading into Tempe, taking on the Sun Devils. Who you got here?
Who's quarterback in Utah, Andy?
I still think at this point it's Wilson. I don't think Rising's been cleared to play, and I don't know if he's going to be back. So I think we're going to have to stick with Isaac Wilson.
I still think Utah's just got more talent. They're running a pro set. I got to go with Utah.
Going Utah, huh? The Utes. I'm going to go Arizona State at home, man, in this one. Utah's been a bit disappointing the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to go Sun Devils. I think I'm going to pull it out at home. Next up, really good matchup here. I think this one could be a little sneaky, but battle in the South. We got Ole Miss heading into Death Valley, my friend, to take on the Tigers at LSU.
Is this Death Valley on a Saturday night? Is this a night game?
Yeah, let me look that up. Let me look that up and see.
This has got upset special written all over it, Andy.
What? Let's see. Let's go.
ESPN 7:30 game.
I have a feeling this one is an afternoon game, but I could be mistaken. Let's see here. Well, maybe. No, 7:30 night game, ABC.
I'm going to go with the upset, Andy. As disappointing as LSU has been, Ole Miss hasn't looked great, and Death Valley on a Saturday night, Lane Kiffin, I don't think he gets it done. LSU upset special.
Wow. He's going with the Tigers. I'm going to stay with the SIP. I'm going to go with the SIP, Ole Miss. I think they took it on the chin a couple weeks ago, and I think they'll roll in and handle LSU. I don't think LSU at 12. I'm not sure they've earned that. So yeah, I'm going Ole Miss in this game. So we'll see. Next one, we just talked about this a little while ago, folks, with our special guest Shotgun Steve. But the Cyclones rolling into Morgantown. Big matchup here, Mark.
So did Shotgun Steve take Iowa State, or did he take West Virginia?
Oh, come on, man. There's no way he's taking the Mountaineers. Yeah, he's all over the Cyclones. Even if they were 30-point underdogs, he'd be taking the Cyclones.
I told you before, right? This is a team on the come. This is a team that's an underdog and a dark horse. I think Iowa State gets it done in Morgantown.
Well, going with Matt Campbell and the boys. You know, he was in the conversation for the Notre Dame job when that opened up before Marcus Freeman took it, and he was in there with Fickle and a lot of big names, and ended up staying at Iowa State. In fact, I think he might have been, and this was when Purdy was there. I think he might have been the number one preferred candidate for the Notre Dame job, and good on him for sticking and staying loyal to the crew there in Ames, Iowa. So you got ISU. I already apologized to my boy Shotgun Steve, but I'm Mountaineers. I think it's brewing for an upset, man. I think the ticket's going to get punched in the L column for the Cyclones, unfortunately, Steve. But I think the Mountaineers are going to get it done at home and be a bit of an upset this weekend. So I'm going to go with West Virginia. All right, next one. This preseason, everybody's looking forward to this game. I'm still sure a lot of people are. Gators rolling into Knoxville. Not as big of a game as it was thought to have been back in week 1, but here we are, week 7. What do you think, Mark?
I think Tennessee comes back at home at Rocky Mount, and they blitz Florida.
Good old Rocky Top, Tennessee, my friend. I'm with you. Balls roll the Gators. UNLV, Utah State, little West Coast action here. I think this is actually going to be a really good matchup in this contest here. Lots of potential for offense in this game. But what do you think, Mark?
UNLV lost last week, Andy.
41 points, and they lost.
Utah State is not a good team. I think we're going to go with UNLV, baby.
Sounds like you're aiming at the dartboard before you threw that dart on that one, my friend. You're going with the running Rebs after coming off the beatdown. Well, not the beatdown. They lost a close game to Syracuse. So Utah State, they are 1-4. They lost last week to Boise State, who's 4-1, and you and I have become Broncos bandwagon fans, I think. But they put up 30 points in that loss. But I'm with you. I think in this game the running Rebs bounce back, and I think they get their revenge on Utah State. So I'm going running Rebs in this game. Boy, this next one, this will be interesting. See your take on this. Whiskey, after putting up 52 last weekend, 52 points, and Rutgers, who both you and I were hyping up, Schiano and that whole program, right, rolling into Lincoln, and they put up 7 points, man.
I know.
Disappointing.
It was very disappointing. They were going to be one of my uglies.
Yeah.
My gut tells me Rutgers, man.
Yeah, you're going Rutgers. I'm with you, man. I'm sticking with Schiano one more week. I think they go home, and Wisconsin is not. I don't think they found something, right? I think that game last week, not calling it a fluke per se, but I don't think they're going to take that and roll the rest of the season, roll that forward. So I'm going to go Rutgers at home, bouncing back after a tough loss to Nebraska there. So you and I we rooting hard for Rutgers. What's the mascot at the Rutgers? Rutgers what?
Scarlet Knights.
Oh, the Scarlet Knights. That's right. I forgot about that. Nice. All right, my friend. Another Big Ten matchup. This time Washington's heading east. Take on the Hawkeyes in Kinnick.
In Ames.
No, that's Iowa State. You just got cursed by all our Hawkeye listeners, man.
Oh, where is Iowa?
Iowa City.
Iowa City,
yeah. Iowa City, Iowa, and Ames is that other school known as Iowa State.
That's right.
Yeah.
I got Shotgun Steve on the brain. I got to go with Iowa, man. I think Washington was lucky to win last week. They're not a great team this year. Iowa's got a good defense. They're good at home. I'm going with the Hawkeyes.
You're going Hawkeyes at home. Yeah, I've got to. I think I've got a couple family members. My two cousins both went to Iowa. One of them played for the Hawkeyes. The other one had a really good time at Iowa. Yeah, this one I think is going to be close. I just don't know about this Washington team, man. Like I just can't. I can't quite figure out what their shtick is, you know. So I think this game. I got it a bit of a toss up, but I'm gonna lean on the side of the Hawkeyes due to family ties and just it's at home and Kirk Ferentz and that team. I think and that crew. I think they get it done. So Hawkeyes at home over the Huskies. Cincinnati taking on UCF. Interesting game here with this matchup. UCF got beat down by the Buffaloes a few weeks ago. Cincinnati's been a little quiet. This one's at UCF. Not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. UCF is where is that located?
Orlando.
It's right in the eye of that hurricane, man. So it'll be interesting to see what effects, if any, linger there at home. I'm going UCF in this game over the Bearcats.
Me too. Cincinnati, I just don't think has enough firepower. UCF is going to bounce back at home after a horrible showing at Colorado.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we both got UCF. Next game, I'm really looking forward to this game. I wasn't. I'd have to say Pitt was not on my radar, and they haven't been until this after they won this past weekend. And listen to you talk about them about every week, man. It's good call, but I think a really good matchup between Cal and Pitt. What do you think here?
I think this is the coronation. Is Pitt for real? They're undefeated. I've been touting them all year. They're home. Cal's a good team. Cal played Miami tough last week. It's going to be a great game. I think Pitt beats them.
Yeah, I'm going with Pitt too at home. I think they continue to roll and have another good weekend and pull out the victory. Excuse me. Next up, Wazoo taking on the Bulldogs of Fresno State. What do you think here, Mark?
This is tough, Andy. Fresno State's having a good year. Fresno State's a good team, but Washington is it's a different talent level. They're a good team this year. They're a good offense. I think they beat Fresno State. I got the Cougars.
Yeah, I'm going Cougs too, man. They're 4-1. Another sneaky, quiet team, and partly because they're, out in Tupac land, one of the two remaining teams left in the Pac-12. And that makes it even quieter, let alone when they had a full conference. It was tough to hear about anybody unless they were on the national scene like Oregon, Washington was last year, and you had Heisman candidates at USC. But, I'm with you, man. They're a decent squad, better athletes. Wazoo gets it done against the Bulldogs. All right. Next game up, man. This is for our real aficionados of college football. The Brown Bears taking on Rhode Island. That's right, folks. You heard it here first. You're not going to see this game on game day. You're not going to see it on Saturday, Fox Big Show, any of the big name podcasters. They're not talking Brown Bears and URI. You got to come to the Sensei and Saturday Sensei for this type of breakdown. What do you think, Mark?
This is how deep this show goes, Andy. There is no conference off limits on
That's
this
right.
show. We try to slip one in every week. We go from coast to coast to Ivy to the Northeast Conference. Andy, you're going to pick a doozy for next week. I'm sure we'll have something for the viewers.
Yep.
But for me, it's the Cardiac Bears, baby.
Wow, really? You're going Brown Bears?
Brown Bears. They've had a great year. They won last week. Remember that field goal that the Harvard tied on?
Harvard. Yep.
So I'm going with the Bears. To me, this is a home game for both teams. Both in Rhode Island. Yeah.
Well, it's at URI. It's at Rhode Island. I had to do a bit of homework on this, admittedly. These two teams were not on the top of my list there in preseason or pregame warmups and research, but pretty evenly matched from what I saw statistically. I think it'll be an interesting game. I think the game will be won in this game by the team that wins the turnover battle. So if you want to go and look up some stats on both these teams, but they tend to, quarterbacks on each side tend to put the ball in the opposing hands, defenders, and running backs tend to drop the ball a bit much on the turf. So I think we're going to see whoever wins that turnover game or prevents the team from having the turnovers, I think wins. I got to go with my crew out there in Warwick, and I got to go URI, my friend. I'm going Rhode Island.
The Rams, baby, the Rams.
Yeah, Rams, that's right. You know it. You know it. All right, folks, we're getting close. 2 more to go. Big matchup here. Big 12 matchup, right? Kansas State rolling in the Boulder, taking on the Buffs.
Andy, I've been touting Kansas State all year.
I know you have. I know.
Disappointments. They had some blips. I think they've smoothed things out. I think my boy Neon Dion's going to have some humble pie. And I'm going with the Kansas State. What are they, Andy? Are they the
Wildcats?
Wildcats.
Yeah,
I'm going with the
Wildcats. You're going KSU. Well, for all the loyal listeners out there, and for my friend in New York City, my pick's going to surprise you, but I'm going with the Buffaloes.
Wow!
Yes, I know. I'm jumping on the Dion train, the Travis Hunter train, you call it, but I think Colorado's going to get it done at home, man. They're another team. Like we watch all these games, we look at the big names, you pay attention to the teams you like, and then you got these teams that are. And we're early into conference play. Pitt, undefeated. Iowa State, undefeated. Army, undefeated. Navy, undefeated. BYU, undefeated. Washington State's 4-1. Colorado's 4-1. Kansas State's 4-1. Right? So these teams are not. I thought about that. I told you I'd allude to this, or I'd get to this later on the podcast. This weekend, when I was out doing my long run, I was thinking about it, and I was listening to another podcast, and I was thinking, we're 6 games in. Most teams have had a bye week, but Colorado, they're 4-1, man. And I've been thinking about them and talking about them like they're 2-2 or 1-3. So I think the Buffs and Dion get it done against Kansas State and knock them off. Kansas State's been a bit unpredictable for me.
Yeah.
But I'm going Buffs at home. So don't let me down, Dion. That's all I'm saying. Don't let me down. I know he's listening. And for folks who think I'm kidding, he's a loyal listener. So, all right, folks. T-shirt game of the week, the big one, the one you always wait for. Mark's all buttoned up, zipped up, not revealing who he's going to side with here. I gave my pick away early in the show, but Ohio State's traveling west to Oregon. I liked Shotgun Steve's analysis. I have to admit I had to think through and second guess if I was going to change my pick, but I'm sticking with the Buckeyes. I think they're loaded on still on both sides of the ball. This will be their first big test. I think they easily passed the test last weekend against Iowa at home, pounded them 35-7. Not that I expected Iowa to win, but I thought it might have been a bit closer. So I think Ohio State travels in this game, and I think they deal the Ducks an L. And don't be surprised, folks, if this game's a bit lopsided in the Buckeyes' favor. So go Bucks.
Andy, this is going to be a classic. Oregon stepping up into the Big Ten, a perennial powerhouse in Ohio State. It's in Oregon, in Nike land. God knows what uniform they're going to wear. The Egg? What do they call that crazy stadium?
Autzen.
The Autzen. But you know what? I want you. I hope that you're keeping track of the T-shirt picks at the end of the season. I want to know how I did on the T-shirt picks. Here we go, folks. You ready for the big reveal?
Yeah, let's do it.
It is Brutus, baby.
Wow.
Brutus.
Going with Brutus and the Buckeyes. Well, there you have it, folks. The T-shirt pick of the week is the Buckeyes, so we're aligned on that. We'll do that. we'll do a rundown in the upcoming week show. Maybe the next week or the week after, we'll have to add. I'll have to add something around your T-shirt picks next to your standings there. So I think you fared relatively well if memory serves me correctly. You picked Navy last week, so you definitely we know at least you got one right. But anyways, that brings us to a wrap for this week, folks. Again, we really appreciate you turning out and tuning in and turning up the volume. Mark and I have a great time doing that. Hopefully you can see that. We brought on some guests. I do have to give a shout out. I was asked by one of our loyal listeners to get shout out to the folks down in Coral Gables. We've given. They asked for a little love for Miami. I think we've given lots of love. We've thrown lots of love towards Cam Ward and the big win over Cal that they had this past weekend, and then obviously the win they had against Virginia Tech. So there you have it, my guy. You got a little Kane love at the end. But hey, we appreciate tuning in. Find us throughout the interweb, and we will be back same time, same spot next week. Good luck, everybody. Take care.